Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for logging on tonight for No Longer Silence. This is Francesca Nunez. How is everybody doing tonight? I hope everybody's good, because this weather is awful tonight. Hot, hot, hot. Usually I start, my topic tonight is going to be on gaslighting. I had a few people call me today what it's all about, and I said you have to log on tonight in my podcast, and I will explain what's gaslighting. It's a very interesting topic tonight because gaslighting is something that even though you hear the word, it's kind of dangerous when it's in a relationship, what the person does, and I will be educating you tonight on gaslighting, the pros and cons, and how to outsmart somebody that does that to you. So before I start my topic, I always have a poem that goes with my topic. So gaslighting, here we go. Oh, yes, it happened how I said it did. You did raise your voice and hauled abuse and called me all sorts of names under the sun. You did call me the B word. You did say I was no good. I, the mother of your children, you did say my love handles was too far from anyone else to handle. You did say the stretch marks marked me as past use. You did say I sat on the shelf without you. And the reason you said you didn't is that even with your perfection, still nothing, you said you're still nothing without me. A gaslighter person is a manipulator, liar, antisocial, personality disorder, all the above. So the poem coincided today with a gaslighter is the person is a manipulator, the person uses verbal abuse, physical, I would say, but not hands. Physical would be health-wise. When a person is like that, it emotionally and mentally drains you. And necessarily doesn't have to be with fists. So why would a man gaslight his wife or the girlfriend? I'm just going to say both in general. They use it to deflect their personality, responsibility. They want to keep the person, pleaser, partner trying to please. They use it to gain power and control. They have a personality disorder, like I said. They're like a narcissist, borderline, or antisocial personality disorder. That is a very, very dangerous, all those topics, narcissist, antisocial, personality disorder, all of them in that category is gaslighting is very dangerous because when you talk about antisocial, the person is isolated or they isolate you. Personality disorder is like a Dr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. One day they're good, one day they're bad. We all run into people that are like that. And one of the things for gaslighting is that the person wants to gain power and control over the person. I have a problem with that. Specifically, I have a problem with that choice of words because no one should have any power or any control whatsoever or over your life because we all have a mind and we all can think for ourselves. When you let somebody manipulate you into thinking you're wrong all the time and they play victim where they're never wrong, they're always right, I have a problem with that. That's where I'm going to go to topic 2. What are the 4 types of gaslighting? And I just had this conversation with someone that didn't know what gaslighting was until I gave the definition. And someone gave them the definition yesterday, and I said it's all outright lying, manipulating of the reality, scapegoating, and coercion. For those that don't know what coercion is the person making you think that you're wrong all the time and they're right. Manipulation is also the same thing. They make you think you're the problem when you're not. Outright lying, I have to give the definition to that. Anything you say or you do The person suspects you're doing something when you're not. They twist your words when you're actually telling truth. Nowadays, you learn in life that when you tell somebody the truth, they're bothered by it. They'd rather have you lie to their face, and they feel better about it than hearing the straight truth. This one right here, rather say the stuff raw. I don't use chocolates. I don't use little Vaseline, and I don't use nothing to soften you up to say. If I got something to say to you, I'm going to say it to you for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons, to educate you and to make you understand that we can be wrong and we can be right, but sometimes we can't be right all the time. Your different philosophy is different from my philosophy, and some people don't seem to understand that. What is a narcissist gaslighting? A narcissist gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse, which I specified that could be physical, but not punching, not slapping. It could be external, like, physical stress, anxiety, which can turn your health bad, which is not good. That involves intentionally manipulating or distorting the truth to instill self-doubt in someone. What I just finished saying was the 4 types. Narcissist is even worse because they believe everything they say is true and you're in the wrong all the time. They don't realize reality stuff of what they're saying to you, and they want to manipulate you and make you seem like you're the bad guy when you're not the bad guy. So that's where they inflict self-doubt. That's where the self-doubt comes. Gaslighting is a form of narcissist behavior. It's classified into the antisocial and personality disorder. It causes a person to question their sanity. That's why when I put that topic up this morning, I know a lot of people are going to ask questions about what's gaslighting, what's the dangers of it. There is a lot of danger in it because the person can make you lose your mind and make you doubt reality. Like, if I did something right, that person's going to say, well, you're not worthy, you're not doing it right, that's not the way I want you to do it, it's this way, when in fact you're doing it the correct way, but they have a certain way of you wanting to do it. There was a movie that I'm quite sure you guys are probably familiar with, and it was Sleeping with the Enemy with Julia Roberts. She was in a marriage with an abusive husband, and throughout the movie I saw something that the husband always did in the bathroom. He folded the towels a certain way and lined them straight. If the wife took the towels and didn't line them up the same way he did, and one was up and one was down, he slapped her because of that. And then he would grab her by her hair and literally take her to the bathroom and show her how he wanted those towels. That is a narcissist personality disorder. He also took it to the kitchen, and all the cans had to been lined up the same length. Corn couldn't be mixed up with green peas or green beans or nothing like that. Corn had to be stacked up corn, green beans stacked up in green beans. If she even messed up the cabinet, mixing the cans all over the place, he would take her and be like, this is how I want it. Throughout the movie, when I noticed, she was always shaking, making sure when she did the grocery shopping, she put the cans correctly. Before he got home, she went into the bathroom to make sure if the towels were lined up, if the pillows were stacked up. That's controlling. That's manipulation. That's a lot of power that you give to someone. And that movie really left me, I've seen it like 5 times already. And she finally left him, and he sought her out. When he saw her out, he came into her apartment, and she put towels how she wanted. When she went into the bathroom and saw that the towels were paired up, she knew he found her. She knew he found her by the way the towels were paired up. So that's scary in itself. She couldn't get away from him. But at the end of the movie, I'm against violence, but at the end of the day, he tussled and stuff with her. She had a new boyfriend, and at the end of the movie, she got to shoot him. and that's where she found her peace, her control back, that this person was no longer to control her. So gaslighting it's very dangerous. If people don't know the signs, the person can seem charming, but like I said, it can be a Dr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. Could be good one day, bad the next. And the signs are very easy to see, whether you're married, whether you're in a relationship. It's good to know this stuff. Because like I said, no one knows what gaslighting was. They were like, are you talking about gas in the car or a light? I was like, no. It's actually a word that has to do with domestic violence and associate with it. So how do you outsmart a gaslighter? First, you make sure that the person is a gaslighter. Take some space from the situation. That part, take some space from the situation, is very hard depending where the person, husband, boyfriend, or whatever, has you in the home doing. That part is very hard to get away from, but if you can remove yourself from that situation, it's good. Collect plenty of evidence of what the individual is doing. Nowadays, people, take pictures, they record. That's something you can do. If you're not scared, speak about the behavior. Sometimes it's very hard when the person is abusive. We never know what's going to be their reaction. I've done that, been there, and several times when I say, why you scream at me, why you say this, and the outcome was, unbearable. At the end of the day, I told myself I might as well have shut my mouth and never said nothing. Remain confident in your vision of, confident in the vision of your events. Like, whatever's going on in the household, if you're in that relationship and you want to continue, like I said, be mindful. It's very hard to talk to someone that's like that. Very hard. I should know. Focus on the self-care. Another thing which is very important, we can't lack of. Involve others. Speak up to a friend, a family member that are willing to listen, and let them know, listen, this is what's going on. He does this to me. I want to leave, or how can I handle this? Seek professional support. Get counseling. Let a person know what you're going through in that relationship. Like I said, I never took counseling. It never worked for me. It was, for the wrong reasons for me, because they were asking me other questions that had nothing to do with the situation, and I decided to leave. But what I said was not good for me can't be, good for the other person. Counseling does work if you ask the right questions and stuff. So the most common form of gaslighting, my people, one main way people gaslight is by shifting blame, that's what I said from the beginning, to another person in order to avoid accountability, which is also known as deflection. We commonly address a situation, and sometimes the person does not want to address the situation at hand and will turn the table to you that you're the problem. And that's in parentheses, you're the problem, when you're really not the problem, because they don't want to address it. Sometimes you have to, whether it hurts, be true to thyself. I always say that you got to be truthful to yourself. If you're not, then who else, you're going to be truthful to. Avoid all confrontation when a person's, a person's like that. It's very good to, educate yourself. If you're in a relationship like that and you're not able to speak to the person, wait a few days and just question, why do you like this a certain way? I know people like to be organized. Some people like to be sloppy. To each his own. Me, I have OCD. I am a clean freak. I have to have everything in its place. I have no problem if you move it somewhere. But at least if everything looks coordinated, that's how I raised myself. I don't like nothing laying around. Everything is put in its place. So in the relationships that I've been in the past, they understood I fold certain item a certain way, and I like to keep it that way. That's my structure. That's my responsibility. That's my way to start the day. I never leave the house without fixing the bed. If I don't fix the bed, I feel like my whole day is ruined. I don't know about anybody else, but I have to fix the bed and I have to fold my blanket before I leave for work. That's not called OCD. That's just called leaving in the morning knowing that your day is going to be good. For anybody that does that in the morning, I give you 2 thumbs up. For anyone that doesn't do that in the morning, try to get up a little early. You will be surprised how your day starts out. But, yes, I am an OCD fanatic. I have to have everything in its place. I'm sorry. I'm just a clean person. Now, before I go into some phrases that gaslighters do use, does anyone have anything to say up here? Have you been in a relationship that the person gaslighted you? Commonly, I know I have some queens that said their testimonies and some kings that said their testimonies, and I can say that you probably was in a relationship like that. Maybe you didn't address certain flaws that the person had. I address everything. I'm sorry. If I see something that's bothering me, I have to address it. I do say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why I have to do this? Why I have to do that? I have to address it. It's two. It's not one in a relationship. It's 2 people. So does anybody have anything to say before I continue the phrases that a gaslighter uses? Don't be shy, because I know I got a couple of people that are not shy up here. I'll go into the phrases. Okay, if someone uses these 9 phrases, if you're anybody up here that's familiar with it, is you're being crazy. You're overreacting. You was just joking. You made me do it. You love me, but you let me do what I want. I'm only telling you this because I love you. This is all your fault. Can anybody relate to the 9 phrases I just mentioned? I'll start with number 1. You're being crazy. When I started with my first husband and I used to tell him how his day was, and he would turn around and tell me, mind my business. He didn't feel like talking. If I said anything to him differently, I was crazy or I was overreacting over any situation that went in the household. I'm never joking when I'm going to express what I'm saying. I say with a stern face. I'm never smiling. Commonly, a gaslighter would say, you made me do it. That would concern verbal or physical. In a domestic violent situation, if he slaps and hits you, commonly he'll say, well, you got me angry and you made me do it. No one asked to get slapped. No one asked to get punched. There's not, you made me do it. You wanted to do it. If you love me, you let me do what I want. No, that's another form of manipulation. Love's not supposed to hurt, and we can't use these phrases that we have to, the word I'm looking for is that we don't have to give in all the time to the person. When you do that, you're disabling the person. And I learned that a couple of weeks ago with someone where you do too much, and I'm learning when you help too much certain individuals, you're disabling them to move ahead in life. I brought up my kids to be independent, and at one point I was almost enabling my daughter to do certain things because I was like the to-go person. And many people were telling me, you have to be a little careful and let her be independent. And I would hear sometimes, if you love me, you would let me do it. I love you, but I don't have to let you do some of the stuff all the time. It doesn't go like that. I'm only telling you this because I love you. Another form of manipulation, no. We're not kids, we're adults. We can dialogue, we can speak. If there's something I'm doing, I would prefer you to address it to me and let me know. I'm not 5 years old, and I can take whatever you're going to say to me. We can have a conversation. I might respond by letting you know what bothers me, and if you just don't like it, then I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Sometimes you have to be raw with the conversations. This is all your fault. Hey, someone said I was right.
This is Adrian. You know I'm gonna agree with you.
Hey, sweetheart. Yeah, we're talking about the topic of gaslighting. Some stuff that a lot of people, don't know that happens in certain relationships. And as I was looking into my research, it all falls into narcissist, borderline, antisocial personality disorder. And it's very scary to see that one word that a lot of people don't understand when you give the definition. It's very hurtful and actually dangerous. And some people don't know that it's very dangerous. And I wanted to educate people tonight on that. And I had some people actually ask me, what is that? Someone told me if it was a lighter. I said, no, I'm not going to be talking about a lighter. I'm going to be talking about gaslighting. And I said, and it's a very, very dangerous disorder. The signs are there. The signs are there, and they're very scary. Sometimes it's more of a verbal action than a physical. Physical, I always say, health-wise, it does damage you, When I say physically, it gives you anxiety, makes you sing, makes you anxious, makes you nervous, because you don't know why the person is doing what they're doing to you. And I said earlier there was a movie that I guess you guys probably saw. I've seen it 5 times, and it was Sleeping with the Enemy with Julia Roberts, where she lived with somebody, where remember how he put the towels even and the cans in the cabinets even, and everything had been the same for him. If she moved it one sort of way, that was a slap, a punch, and grabbing her by her hair and was like showing her exactly how to do it. And that power, you can't give that person that power and that control. That's absolutely a no-no. And I've seen that movie like 5 times. Not that I say I loved it, but it's just learning from learning from what the person does. Go ahead.
Actually, Francesca, we used to back in the day, we used to call that grooming, which you're describing. Yes. Our child is small, and don't do that, don't say that, don't look that way. Why you have to sit that way? They're grooming you, and after a while you're thinking, I can't do anything right, And that's the message they're trying to get to you. You need me to tell you how to act and what to say and how to look. And after a while, you're always looking to me like, is this okay? Is this okay? They slowly groom you into, thinking that I know better, so you need to look to me on how to do things.
I like that you used that word tonight. I like that you used that word because, you know what, growing up, I saw, a lot of stuff, my childhood, but that's another, that would be another book and another testimony. When I was growing up, I was like the black sheep of the family. My siblings can never do anything wrong. And whenever they didn't do something, I had to do it because I was the oldest. And I was always questioned. I would always question my mom, like, listen, they're able-bodied. Why are they're not doing this? They can wash their own clothes. They can wash their own dishes. It's one thing that you take turns every night, but it's another thing when it's you constantly, and they'll go to the room, watch TV. They won't fix the room. It was me doing it all the time. And as they were growing up, they got used to the fact of throwing stuff all over the place and not cleaning after themselves. And I saw that as now that I educate myself, that she enabled them to do for themselves. You know, they'll order food outside because they can't even cook. I used to cook like off and on when my mom didn't want to do it. She taught me since 8 years old. She had me by the stove looking at her when she was cooking, and I was like, okay, you got me by the stove. What's wrong with my sister and my brother? Why can't they be in the stove just like I am, learning how to, cook these meals? So at the end of the day, I saw not only, grooming, but also enabling, her enabling her, because we're from different fathers. I have to put that out there. Enabling them in life to do what they're supposed to do. That's why I think I got like the OCD so bad, because I used to make sure the beds were tight, military style, the clothes were put away.
I came in when you were talking about that, yeah. But that's what it is. I mean, you use enabling. The only difference I see in those two words, enabling, your brother and sisters were they were enabling them, but they was grooming you. On how you're going to be allowed to be treated. So it probably got to a point that nobody would have to ask you. They would eat or whatever and go sit in front of the TV. They get ready to take their plate of me. I'll do it. Because that's how you were groomed to behave around them.
Exactly. Yeah, back in the days how it used to be. Mom cracked whip and you had to do everything. So that I understood. And, sometimes some of the phrases that I use, like you're overreacting, sometimes they will use manipulation towards me and be like, well, if you do this, I'll give you this, or I won't tell Mom you did this, which I never used to do nothing. I'm not saying I'm not no saint, but everything was like my fault. Growing up, everything was my fault. They never did anything wrong, which I saw was unfair. That's why when I became a mother, which was a humongous blessing, I taught my kids to be very independent when they were little. I started with them little. I made sure they cleaned the room. I made sure that they had their bath time, what time they had to sleep to go to school. If they used a plate, they had to wash it. I had a washer and dryer, so they would take turns. Like if my daughter would wash, my son would do the dryer, and they would fold together and put the clothes away. We would all do it together. So there was never, like specialism where I told one to do everything and the other one can just freelance and watch TV. That wasn't in my household. I'm happy to say they're independent. They're on their own, and I never enabled them in their lives. I made sure they can do everything and help each other. School was a very factor in my life where they had to finish school. I finished, you got to finish, because you got to have an education, because Mama ain't going to take care of you when you're, 18 and beyond. You got to go out there in that world and do the same thing I did. So how I was brought up was way different how I brought up my kids. I'm very proud of myself. There was always dialogues. There was always communication. And I saw that it was better like that. And I'm in my grandbaby's life, and I try to help her the best way I can to bring structure into those little – my grandson is 7, and I try to bring structure into his life where he has to clean up, fold his clothes, not throw them all over the place. I know it's very hard when there's a 7-year-old, but, he's very smart. And I tell her, bring a little structure, let him know in life is not doing stuff for him. He has to learn too, because he'll feel like he accomplished, something when you let them do it, because no. And we adjusted a little bit the back talk. That was never in my life, because I wish you would. So we addressed that a lot. But there's, a lot of structure that has to be implicated. Nowadays, in this generation now, it's different. I see it, very, very different. But, parenting is not easy. It's not for the brokenhearted. It's a tough, it's a tough road, but, you have to be there. You have to be there and give structure, and a lot of stuff will be different if we do that. So, like I said, I was the black sheep when I grew up, and some of these phrases went along with me. You made me do it, and you got to do this, you got to do that, and that's what gaslighting is. And a lot of people see that word and they think that word doesn't come with a lot of phrases, but it does. It has a lot of stuff behind it, and I was like, wow. And I also learned this through my domestic violence courses, to read the signs, to look out for the signs, and just to educate anyone. And that it's very hard, and I have to say, to leave domestic violence relationship is very hard, because sometimes people didn't have the resource like I did. Now people do have resources. Sometimes I'm baffled where I mentor certain ones, and I see this situation. Like I said, there was one of my that I mentored. She went back to and I said this a couple of weeks ago on my podcast, she went back to the individual. And one day I got up in the morning and I listened to 2 voice messages, and I saw the stuff he was saying to her, threatening her, and even saying he was going to take the 2-year-old baby, and that she was going to be nothing, absolutely nothing without him. And that's totally, wrong. But I did tell her that, once a beater, always a beater, once an abuser, always an abuser, and he wasn't going to change. And I had to start the process where she had to call the cops and get him removed. And the locks changed from the apartment, and I told her, change the baby from another daycare so he doesn't know his whereabouts. And if he's, granted visitation, that they be supervised. You can't have this individual near you, and you can't have him see the child without somebody supervising them, because you don't know if he would kidnap him. And, when that happens, it's very hard. You don't know where the individual took the child. There's steps to trying to find him, and sometimes they go out of state, which is very, very hard. So I'm just glad she got out of that relationship, because I did explain to her that person is never going to change. I know for a fact my ex-husband has not changed. 4 marriages in, and he's been divorced in all 4 because of the same situation. Until a 5th comes along and offs him, or he offs her, that's when people will finally know that he was an abuser. And I am fighting very hard to try to get the laws changed for domestic violence, where not only that they have this law now where both get arrested until they find out who started what, but when you are the abuser, I am trying to do a legislative law that they did in New York, that when the person actually does hurt you or does kill you, that the laws are changed, that they are arrested. I don't like the fact now that they have this thing where you have no bond. You see the judge and you go back to court. If there's no bond, the person can jump and leave and not show up for court. And that defeats the purpose. How are you supposed to get justice? Currently now, the girl that's sister was killed, she is doing a rally now in another week, where the guy was given 25 years, and because of good behavior or whatnot, or new evidence that popped up, they're trying to give him 15 years. Look at that. He killed her. So the laws for domestic violence should be a little stricter, should be a little stronger. He murdered, and I can say this on air, he murdered this young, beautiful young lady that's no longer here to raise her 2 children, which is very, very sad. And if you was given 25 years, do the 25 years. I know this family very well. They will be at every parole meeting to make sure you do not come out. You do not come out. So it's sad. Some laws need to be straightened out. And it's just, like I said, it's just sad. It couldn't be me. So we just have to be mindful. Learn how to walk away when a relationship is toxic, is no longer, good for you, and if it's affecting your health. I believe in a lot of peace, eternal peace. I believe in that love is not supposed to hurt. And it's just sad that people remain in relationship because they feel like they can't find somebody. No. You're beautiful inside and out. You never know what God has in store for you. You just have to wait, not jump into any relationship. Always see the red flags. I educate people here. You have to see the red flags. If you see something odd or weird, learn how to walk away and be like, that's not for me. If you see certain things that is not just for you anymore, learn how to walk away. There's nothing in the world more better than peace, absolute peace. Some people are afraid to be by themselves. That's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because you get to learn externally, internally what you're worth. If you get into another relationship, always study and observe the person. I emphasize that a lot. A lot. We never know who the person really is when you get to know them. They're a totally different person when you meet them, totally different person when you move in, if you're married, and you see different traits of what they start doing, and it starts bothering you, and if you address it and the person gets upset, then you know they're going to get upset anything you say about any situation. Be true to thyself all the time. Look for all the signs. They're all out there. Gaslighting, physical, verbal. There's a lot of information out there that we could educate ourselves. I use a lot of YouTube. I look at a lot of documentary. I look at a lot of movies. I see stuff and I learn from it, the do's and don'ts of what not to accept in a relationship no more. And in life, you don't have to be, scared. You have to learn that if you was born alone, you'll be alone, and you will be able to survive. The right one will always come along, of course. If you notice any red flags, be gone. I've gone on 2 dates, and trust me, those red flags came up quicker than I can imagine. I was like, that's the first and last date I'll ever have with you again if you had an issue because my phone rang, and I apologize, and you still caught an attitude. A person that follows you through social media and has the nerve to tell you you'll never have somebody in your life because you have an active life. Maybe for you it will be an issue. Maybe for the other person it won't be an issue. Look for words that are hurting. Look for words that they say is some type of control, is a power that they want to have over you. I am very independent. Everybody knows that I'm very independent. I will never like anybody to take that independence from me. I love my life. I like everything that I am doing. And I always take that negative, feedback, and I look at who's saying it to me and why.
That's right.
But I always see it, and I tell people that I put I put stuff that normally in Facebook is not happening to me, but it's to educate. But when someone says something negative to me, I don't take it for myself. I look at the person that's saying it. However you're saying it to me, you are the problem, not me. I'm far from perfect, but I can acknowledge if I do something, I analyze it. But if I know I didn't do it wrong, I'm not going to take it for myself. You can say what you want to say, but I will look at who is saying it to me first. And we must learn from that one. That was a good one right there, wasn't it? I liked it, that one. That was a good one. I don't take whatever someone says for myself. I look at who says it first. And we got to learn from that. Sometimes words can be hurting, and sometimes there's stuff that needs to be said. But if you say it in the correct way, then the person shouldn't be hurt. If they say it in the incorrect way and they feel offended, then you hit a nerve. But it's a nerve that you hit because you're speaking truth, you're not lying. Me, I cannot lie. I would tell you the straight up truth. In any relationship, friends wise, they respect me because I don't sugarcoat nothing. If a girlfriend of mine did something, they know I'm going to address it and be like, listen, I don't want to have a problem, but this is what happened, and I hope you don't feel bad. If they take it another way, then you wasn't my friend to begin with if you can't take structured criticism because I'm calling you out on something. Rather than you think I'm going to applaud you, I'd rather tell you this bothers me. So our friendship lasts. So that's what type of person I am, and that's why I keep a lot of friends, because I keep it strictly 100. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what's going on, and I want you to know. But I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear so I can make you feel better. That's a no-no. That's a no-no in my book. I say like it is. My kids know I tell them like it is. If they get mad at me for a week or two, oh well. Sooner or later, you're going to pick up that phone, and you're going to talk to me. But I told you truth. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. A rule of thumb. Don't do what you don't want anybody to do to others. Rule of thumb. So does anybody have any testimony on gaslighting? Have you been through something like that in a relationship with a boyfriend, husband? What was your thoughts? What would you want to say to somebody that's been in a situation like that? I've told you guys exactly what happened to me, and I just removed myself from that situation, and I feel good. I can say more than 10 years divorced and happy that I'm no longer in that relationship. And I just turned my pain to purpose. Anything that happened to me, though people ask me why I stay so long, I'm strictly, honest. And I said the resources wasn't there, the family support wasn't there, and, stuff just happens. And I always say God creates his best soldiers for every situation, because now, thanking God, I have a podcast where I can educate people. I have my nonprofit organization where I can help a lot of women, young men, and teenagers in the process of that what happened to me doesn't happen to somebody else. Instead of me shunning it and keeping it quiet, instead I opened and not kept myself silent, and now I am who I am today, helping others. So that's me. And that's how we should all be, and learn that when we're going through something, never be ashamed. It takes a while for you to talk about it. I always say share your testimony when you're ready, because not only are you helping yourself to heal, you're going to help somebody else heal. Years ago, I had a problem talking about domestic because people were like, no, y'all looked like the perfect couple. You look like you didn't go through something like that. And I was like, what does someone really have to look like, to go through something like that? Necessarily they don't have to be bruises. There can be isolation. There was times I didn't have bruises all the time. I isolated myself where I didn't want to go outside because I was ashamed and didn't know what to do anymore. So sometimes I ask myself, how is somebody supposed to look like when they're going through something like that? Because sometimes it's not physical bruises, and people don't understand that. To this day, people do not understand that. And I educate people where they have to speak up. I have some people that I invited on the podcast that they feel, scared. And I said, listen, they're going to hear you but not see you, but call in. Maybe it'll make you feel better. It has for me. I'm glad I opened up for a lot of stuff because it helped me heal. It made me understand I wasn't a problem. It made me understand that I was with an individual that had a big issue and still has a big issue. And down the road, my path is now helping people. Like I said, sometimes telling your testimony is the biggest step and the hardest step to do, but I guarantee when you feel up to it, you'll start healing in the process. So I always say you don't look like what you went through when you talk about it. You heal from the inside out, and then there is power in that. And I also tell people, learn how to stand up for yourself, learn how to not be afraid, because I learned that when I hated him every single day of my life, I hated him. I couldn't come to forgive him for what he did to me. I started learning through someone else that I gave him power. And when the person said that to me, like, you're giving him power by not moving forward, I was like, what you mean how I'm giving him power? I'm not no longer with him. I was like, but you're letting him win by always being angry, by always thinking about it. And I said, really? I was like, and you can't give him that power. Smile. Talk about it. And I thank God that now that I talk about it, I forgave him. I physically, internally forgave him so I could move forward. And it has been the happiest moment of my life, because a couple of weeks ago here I did say I bumped into him. I had my head down talking to a girlfriend, and I almost got hit by a parked truck. And that parked truck that was parked parallel, he was crossing in front of the truck. I was going in front of it. And when I looked up, he looked at me, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm in front of my ex-husband, something I wanted for a lot of years, to be like face-to-face, to actually ask him a couple of questions. And believe it or not, guys, I walked away. I crossed the street. I didn't bother. I had a huge smile on my face. He kept looking back. And I was like, okay, I want you to see I'm happy, that I'm fine. And I went on with my life. And that was a good feeling. It was an absolutely good feeling. And I did not waste my saliva or my words with an individual that was not worthy of me wasting my time. So that chapter has closed in my life when I bumped into that individual. And it was a good feeling. Yes, it was a good feeling. It was a good feeling. Because sometimes you never know when that happens to you, your mind goes into what you want to say to that person, stuff that's been dwelling inside of you. And after all these years, God put them in front of my face. And believe it or not, once I had them in front of me, all that feeling went like, I have nothing to say to this individual. Believe it or not, and I crossed the street, and I just had a big, huge smile. And when he turned around, he saw that I had a huge, big smile. But I wasn't smiling at you. I was smiling because I overcame the fact that I had you face to face, and I chose not to say a word to you because you was not worthy of my time. And all that just released. So I was happy. So when that finally happens to you, you release. People don't believe it, you release. So it has happened to me, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful for God that He held me back from that situation. The old Francesca might have said, like, listen, you did so much stuff to me, and I don't know what would have came out at that instant, but I had so much self-control, and I said, you know what, you're not worth my time. You did what you did. That's it. Go ahead with yourself. You're probably paying for it in the long run. Who knows how, but just keep it moving, and it was such a good feeling. And I was just so proud of myself that day because I was like, wow. I had him in front of my face, and all these years I wanted to say this, I wanted to say that. And at the end of the day when I saw him, I said, no, I'm better than that. I'm not giving you that feedback, and I'm not giving you that control, and I'm not giving you that power. I don't want you to know that you hurt me. You should know that already. But I want you to see the face that you no longer can control or have that power to, because I am my own person. So it felt good. It really felt good. It really did. So I encourage anybody that has a testimony, whenever you're ready, always talk about it. I know some people are not, but it's such a good feeling when you let it out. Never feel shame because it's not your fault. Whether it's abuse, molestation, rape, the whole list comes down. Never feel like it's your fault. I learned throughout the years is the person that's damaged, is the person that has the problem, that inflicted anything on you. And I learned that throughout the years in many, many situations that I came across. I came across child abusers, I came across molestation, I came across rape victims, I came across, and I always said, you're not the problem. The problem was the individual. That person had problems long before they did what they did to you. And they just inflicted it on you because they didn't have nowhere else to release it to. You was just like that person right in front of your face. So whatever they went through, they saw it through you. And you was the target. You was the person. So that's how, that's how I saw it. And that's how I learned throughout the years. It's never your fault, and never be ashamed of what happened to you, because you grow from that situation to help somebody else. Unfortunately, other people have passed because of that situation. Unfortunately, other people couldn't bear with the shame, and they turn to alcohol, pills, cutting themselves, and it's a process trying to get them, help. And when they do help, I've been in many counseling sit-ins. They blame themselves. They blame themselves, and it's sad. Yeah, it's very sad. So, always be true to thyself. Go ahead.
This is Adrian again. You're absolutely right. What we tend to do is blame ourselves. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe I didn't do enough. But the unfortunate part of that is a lot of times their friends and relatives sign on to that. You didn't have dinner ready when he came home from work. That man worked hard. You don't think he deserved to have dinner ready when he come home. Well, I work all day too. But a lot of times the support is on the abuser's side, because people outside outside don't understand the dynamics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why I dedicated myself to educating the community, everybody, because everybody needs to understand how this happens, how it gets started, how you get stuck in it, and why it takes people so long to get out of it.
Absolutely, Adrian. You coming on strong in my program tonight, and I just want to thank you because I know you're
my
part.
Field, Francesca. I'm cheating.
Yes. It's your field, but it's good when we can connect both of us together on the same in the same field, because like I said, we can learn from each other. We can learn. There's some stuff that you said on tonight that you rephrased it very well. I never thought of grooming. I never thought of grooming along with gaslighting, which is another form, and other stuff that you mentioned here that a lot of family members do go on the side of the abuser. I had my mom was one of them. When I approached her, she told me fix it, and that was the problem. And this is the woman that birthed me, that I thought with all the stuff I looked at and seen, she was supposed to be the main person to protect you and be like, you know what, I'm going to get you out of the situation. I was expecting to hear from her, pack a bag and come live with me. I didn't hear that. Instead, it was like, run along and go to your house and fix that situation, cook them a good meal, clean the house. And it was, the same situation over and over and over. And I'm like, I can't be the problem. It possibly can't be the problem, because I am doing the opposite and the same every single day, and he still had an issue. There still was a problem. I had his mom live with us for like 6 months, and she was helping me. She never she saw arguments, but she never saw him hitting me. And when she left to DR, I can safely say those were the 6 months of the happiest moments of my life when that woman was home with us, my mother-in-law. They say you can't live with your mother-in-law, but she was the best. She was the best. She always had, helped me prepare his meals and stuff. And honestly, that was a moment where I had, I can breathe in it and breathe out. Though sometimes he would come upset and he would argue in front of her. It wouldn't be like so severe. But when she left, it was like I feared all that all over again, that it was just going to come back. When I made the meals, it was always an issue. I don't want that. Who told you to make this? But you don't call me. Brother, you didn't pick up the phone and say, whenever I would call me, like, what you feel like eating, he would say, I would make it and would be like, well, I didn't want that. And I'm like, well, I called you and you told me to make that meal, and now you don't want it, and I made it for nothing. He would throw it on the ground, throw it on me, which was very humiliating, and I would have to pick that up and make something else. So there's a word that they always say, you damn if you do and you damn if you don't. And I was like, I'm not the problem. He is. He has an issue. And Miles, long time ago when I was discussing this, I think Dr. James and him asked me a question, did I know of anything of his background? And I said, absolutely yes. The father was not a violent person. The mother was a sweetheart. The brothers were all church-going people. And I saw nothing in the family that would give me any red flags to say why this individual was the way he was. To this day, the family is always, they realized that he did what he did to me, and they felt awful. I had cousins of his hit me up and be like, I saw this podcast in Spanish that they did of you. Don't tell me he did all that heinous stuff to you, and how you came here to DR and you never looked like you went through that stuff. And that's where the word comes, how am I really supposed to look? Do I have to come with a black guy to DR for you to know that your cousin was abusive? It could have been all different things. Sometimes when we went to travel, he would always tell me, stay by him. I was always with him. He never left me with a family member for fearing that I will open up to one of the brothers that went to church and say, listen, your brother is like beating me up and doing this. I was never alone with a family member when I was down there with him. He took me everywhere. And when we were in family gatherings, he made sure I was right by his side. So that was a lot of power and control that man had over me. That's why I said now I'm like a bird, no longer in a cage. I fly, and I do a lot of stuff now that I couldn't do in the past. So families sometimes, we have to admit, are more towards the abuser. They are, Adrian, and I'm glad you said that you're absolutely right. They're the first ones to say, you're doing something wrong. I don't see nothing wrong with him. Cook the meals, clean, and they never see the wrong in the person, which is absolutely.
An example that I used to use a lot when I used to do my talk, that you would call and ask him what he wanted to eat and wouldn't respond, but then be mad about what you cooked. And that's a form of manipulation too. It's like, you should know what I want to eat. Oh, now you got to be psychic. But it's a lot of dynamics involved that people don't understand, and that was my hardest part in dealing with domestic violence people. In my work and in my ministry, because other family members would come to me and say, well, you don't know her. She never kept the house clean like he liked it, and she never did this and never. And I said, wow. Why all y'all in that business? Because they don't know what they're talking about, and they
Absolutely.
Go by back in the day. Women had quote unquote their place, and if you didn't stay in your place, then it's your fault. You get what you deserve. So that was my fight always, to break that mindset.
No, absolutely, and I'm in agreement with you, because we did have that discussion that sometimes back in the days what happens in the home stays in the home. You weren't able to say anything, what was going on with you. And that's when I was married, that's how I was, like, ashamed to say something to the sister, to say something to my mother, to say anything to anybody, because I don't know what would be like their response. And then when I finally got the courage to say something, that's what my mother said. There was an incident one time where we had a business together. He blackened my eyes in the middle of winter. And you don't wear shades in the winter. You wear them in the summer. And the sister came in the office and she was like, "What are you wearing shades? It's, it's winter time. It's not even sunny." And when I flipped them up, you think she would go in the back and say something to him, and she didn't. She saw it like normal. And I was like, my God, I see my sister's eye black, and the first thing I'm going to question is what happened.
What did you do?
But that would, yeah, I would have been like, what's going on? What happened? And when she flipped my glasses up, she just looked at me, and I was like, Jesus. She's not even going to ask me how I got that black eye. And I was just dumbfounded. She put the glasses back down, and she just shut and never said a word. So there was no.
You said
no
that
help.
Was his sister or your sister? That was
his sister.
All right.
His sister.
So it's a possibility that she was afraid too. He may have been abusive towards her. You never know.
Nope.
Maybe a lot of people want to stay out of it for fear that something may also happen to them. You know what I'm saying? That when it's in the middle, you never know what kind of past they had, if he was that type of person. Also, I just wanted to say, sometimes, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to agree with you.
Oh, okay. I was getting ready to say, sometimes if parents or family members are not in agreement with them, it's not all the time. And then it's some because of old school, a lot of times things that are said are not said in front of the people. And like, for instance, in my situation, his father would not speak to him or get on him in front of me, because that was like man to man. You know what I'm saying? But he would say something. He would say something to him, and he would give him a penalty, or it would be some type of consequences. However, his mother would not agree with him either. But the fact that she allowed it to go down on her watch, us to fight in her presence in her house, not like she wanted to, she would always try to stop it. But the fact that she never let him know that he shouldn't do anything like that, and it would be some severe consequences, he knew that he can do that. You know what I'm saying? So it was not until I said, well, I know you love these antiques in your house. They're about 30 years old or whatever. Your son is going to be wearing them. Anytime he put his hands on me, I'm going to put my hands on him. We're going to break this house down, and that's how we do that. Now, if the police come, they would not say anything. He would do all the talking and act like, oh, she in the wrong. And because, I would be visiting with my kids sometimes or something like that. So it would be like, oh, she don't even live here and blah, 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 blah. They would not say anything in the presence of the police or anything contradictory to what he would say. He would do all the talking. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I knew at the same time they would say something to him about it. But if his father knew about it, he would do something. Like, for instance, when he saw him acting up, he took all his clothes out of the house. All his clothes was in the garage. And he wasn't allowed to come in the house because having tantrums and throwing stuff around and acting crazy. You know what I'm saying? But they had a united front. And that's what some people think, that because of the united front, sometimes that people are in agreement. And I want to say that there are those that are not. There are some that do, And also, like both you and Adrian said, people have played into that old mindset, like you brought it on yourself if you didn't do this and do that because you know what your place and your responsibility and job is. You know what I'm saying? But that was that old way, and they felt like, they was taught, like you said, whatever goes on in the house stays in the house, and that these things are acceptable. You just do what you have to do to survive and be taken care of, as well as your as well as your children to grow up with their father and them to be taken care of, because I don't think some of them had that that belief in themselves that they can handle it and do it by themselves. Even working moms today have difficulty believing that they can handle the situation by themselves, you know. So I feel like that's the mentality, the way they were raised, and the things they believed in, because that's what they were taught. I thank God somewhere along the line, some mothers and fathers said, no, this is not how it goes, and you can do this. You can do what you have to do. Or somebody else on the side said, no, sweetie, you don't have to take that. Or to him, no, you don't have to take that. And thank God for those people that came along and taught us and told us different. And my mother stood by my side. But my father said, I will not be involved, because if he put his hands on her, it's going to be serious. And he said, you're not serious. If I hurt this man, you're going to go home with him, and he's going to hurt you. So
exactly.
my father stayed out of it and said, when you get tired, you will stop it. You know, my mother said, I have to stay out of it, because literally when I'm sitting in the car, I'm going someplace where I think about him putting his hands on my daughter, and I want to choke him out. But my child is in this car, my grandkids is in this car, and I don't want nothing to happen to my baby. So she couldn't really tolerate him and deal with him like that, you know. So it was a lot of people that wasn't in agreement, but they dealt with it for different reasons, you know. And they expressed it to me or whatever. But like I said, they would not get involved. They would not, like, make that statement in front of me, or wasn't no discussion, and I need to sit down and talk to y'all. Y'all can't do this like this. You know what I'm saying? They would have one-on-one conversations with us, but never together. No type of counseling or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? I just had to get sick and tired of being sick and tired and be fed up and say, nah, we're not going to do this. But I would not take a beating. I would always fight back. But he felt like, I mean, the first time he hit me, I should have knew better, but I didn't. I saw, I was like, you so stupid. You know, you laughing and you play. I said, you so stupid. And he hit me so hard. And then I went home, and I just was like, I didn't want to be bothered anymore, but it didn't go like that. You know, we had kids and stuff like that, so then I just continued in the relationship. But the more, you know, I knew, thank God, I knew who I was and that I didn't have to take it. I knew I could do better. My mother let me know. My father let me know. And that helped me. My belief within myself helped me to come out of it, and my belief in God, you know.
Yeah. I admire you. I like everything you said tonight. I also want to just say, I think that had been like the hardest thing for your parents to know, because we're going to say we're always the parents, like, you know, little girl. So your father to know and your mother to have that feeling, I'm quite sure it had been like real hard for her, you know, to sit in the car and, you know, put yourself in her position and just know, like, you know, you're hurting my baby and I can't do nothing. I got to let her, you know, grow up and get out of the situation. And sometimes, you know, at least you had that, which was wonderful. But I can just imagine that it's like trauma both ways, because not to get involved unless it got serious, but for your mother to have that feeling inside of her, you know, and know that she wants to choke them out, but she wants you to handle it. It had been like real rough for them too, you know, because you're their little girl, and no one wants, you know, the father and the mother that birthed you, that took that pain to bring you, you know, into this world, and know that there's an individual that's going to hurt you. I can just by you talking, I was just trying to put myself in your mom's position and feel, as you were saying, how your mother was feeling. I know it had been like gut-wrenching for her and like traumatizing for them, like to sleep, like, is our little girl okay? You know, she's going to be fine. You know, there comes a lot of anxiety with that, you know, with that situation where they don't feel powerless, because they know at the end of the day, 9 out of 10, you're going to get out of that situation, and they'll breathe, because I'm quite sure once you got out of that situation, your mother and your father was all right with it. But during that process that you was going through that, they were going through it with you too. because they felt that anxiety of wanting to help, but also giving you the power to get out of that situation yourself.
Exactly.
So that was wonderful.
It was extra hard for my mom because she lost her first child. So I was her second, So after 6 months, she dealt with a crib death. And then so she was very protective. And me, to be the oldest, she said, I hate him. I really hate him. He took my baby and all the laughter and all the fun, and now you have to deal with this type of situation. She's like, I really hated him. So she has to work, like you said earlier, about not allowing somebody to have that type of power over you because you're angry and you just, you don't have anything that you can do about it, and you have all of that bottled up. And so she expressed that to me. She was like, you were so silly. We had so much fun together. And he just took my baby away from home, man. And then you have to go through all of this. And I literally, every time my mother wanted to see my kids, I have to fight with him to take my kids to my mom. And then I would stay with my mom like a week or so, and then I would come home, And anytime she wanted to see her grandkids, we had to fight. But yet, it's still I could spend every day with his mother, run errands, cook and clean, do chores and everything, and have my kids there, stay with his mother all day, every day. But when my mom wanted her kids, was always a problem. He was very insecure. I felt like that I was not going to come back. And if anybody said, ooh, I saw such and such from school today, but like that was like a subliminal message. Somebody was trying to send me some type of code to try to talk to me. It was just crazy. And he would want me, just to stay where he felt safe with his family. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't want anything to bring me out of that. But when you get tired, you do different. When you get
yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, sweetheart.
Just Dr. J, I just want to say, now I came in late, but your arguments, did they all stem from, most of the time, from money? I'm just curious.
No.
Y'all didn't argue over money?
They was about control, Dr. James, manipulation and control. Somebody just want to control everything with you. So even if something is not going right with them, then they will just act out on you. You know what I'm saying? Because they stressed out, they had a bad day, or somebody said something or did something, anything. Like one time, he was hungry, like Francesca was singing, and I made a pot of spaghetti. I don't know what his attitude was, but he came and threw something there and hit the light bulb over that spaghetti. And being that mean person I was, I'm sorry to say, I served him the spaghetti. Oh. And he caught on to it. But it's just any little mood swing that he just want to be controlled. I can't do this. I can't go do that. I can't go to church. I can't be with this one. If any guy say hello to me, it's more than that. And that was because the same things that he was doing, and that happens in a lot of relationships, male and female. Whatever they're doing, they try to project it on you as if you're the one that's doing it. So he was cheating. So every time somebody spoke to me, I was cheating. You know what I'm saying? If they said hello or smile or anything, and I never forget the day that I walked up into the backyard after we broke up, and he was under the hood of the car, and one of his friends was standing out there, and he said, well, what are you doing here? He didn't know that he was my kid's father was my kid's father. And I just looked at him and I smiled. And then my kid's father got from under the hood of the car. He said, oh, that's my kid's mother. He said, what? This your kid's mother? He said, I've been chasing her every day trying to talk to her, and she would never give me the time of day. And I just looked at him and I said, see, the truth eventually going to come out. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But you talked about me crazy because of what you were doing, and you put me down there and said all kind of things. But that was just him projecting what he was doing off on me, and act like I was the one. But little by little, all of that stuff got flipped around, and even his family today, like a couple of weeks ago, his cousin said, I'll tell anybody about you, the type of woman you are. And I know what type of person my cousin was and how he treated you. And I told him, no good is ever going to come to you. And my mother told him, no good is ever going to come to you for what you do to that girl. And he said, she really loved you. You got a church girl. You need to stick with her. She stick by your side. He said, but he didn't want to get anything. And I was so glad that you got away from her because I knew how he was. He said he would not do that same thing to another man, but he would do it to a female. I was like, wow. He just told me that.
No, it's true.
I noticed that when I used to have arguments, a lot of it did stem from money. I don't know. Maybe it's different. People are different. But,
Dr. James, tonight the topic was gaslighting. The gaslighting has to come with a lot of stuff, narcissism, personality disorder, and some of the stuff that Deborah was saying, it coincides with my situation too. Sometimes, a lot of arguments do happen by financials. A lot of arguments do happen with financial because sometimes the woman wants the man to do more, or the man wants the woman to do more. So it does happen where there's arguments with that. But in our case,